directing the Pentagon to start testing nuclear weapons immediately. It would be the first nuclear test in more than 30 years, breaking away from decades of U.S. policy. The president is saying that he wants to resume testing on an equal basis with countries like Russia and China. The announcement comes just days after Russia successfully tested a nuclear-powered submarine torpedo, and North Korea test-fired a missile with nuclear capabilities just as Trump touched down in South Korea. So I'm going to bring back my panel here, John, Elsie, Elizabeth, and Kaivan. So, John, the announcement here, I think the announcement was surprising, but even more interesting for some people was the timing of the announcement.
Yeah, I think that what he's trying to do is project strength. And quite frankly, a lot of presidents in recent memory have not projected strength on the world stage. And that's why we have a lot of problems in this world, like Russia going into Ukraine. So there's nothing that prevents him from doing that. The U.S. agreed to the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty by signature. It was never ratified by Congress, so nothing prohibits him from doing it. So projecting strength is not necessarily a bad thing. Getting in an arms race and triggering a nuclear war, obviously that's horrible. But I think the president has to walk a balance here between the times of the past where they don't work, and if your adversaries are flexing their muscles, you like it or not, you got to flex yours or they're going to think you're weak. And that's just the way it is in the world.
Interesting. LZ, we had an analyst on earlier who said that the test ban, in his opinion, actually locks in the United States nuclear advantage, like if there's a ban on testing, so people don't understand the advantage that you may have.
First, I disagree with John a little bit in the sense of we've had weakness on the presidential stage over the years. As far as I can remember, every single president in my lifetime has fired a bullet overseas except for one, Jimmy Carter. We've been in perpetual war. So I don't understand what more strength we need to show as a president, as a White House, if our nation is always at war with someone. I go back to Teddy Roosevelt, 1901, speak softly, carry a big stick. I think every nation on the planet knows no one spends more on weapons in the United States, and there's no need for us to show off what we have just because those who are lesser than us have done that.
Elizabeth, what's your reaction?
I can just talk briefly.
Go ahead.
I'll be really brief. And I understand what LZ's saying. He's absolutely right. But Russia's in a different posture right now. Russia has got a desperate for a leader who's getting pretty desperate. And I think it's got to be reminded that things can break bad for you too, Russia. But I agree with what he's saying for the most part.
So, Elizabeth, do you think this is more about testing American nuclear weapons to assure the safety of Americans, or do you think it's more about showing force on the world stage?
Well, look, I think it's a little bit of both, and I think they go together. I can remember countless times over the last few years, whether on the campaign trail or since Donald Trump's been back in the Oval Office, sometimes in meetings with foreign leaders, for example, he has warned about the possibility of a nuclear war. He's warned of the possibility of World War III, and I think he deserves massive credit because at those times when he brought that up, he was usually mocked. I mean, people have been disagreeing with him for years about this, but the reality is the possible use, the existence of nuclear weapons in war is now something that we have to contend with, and this is something that's our reality, and I believe what John said to be true, that you have to show strength on the world stage. You cannot blink in the face of your adversaries. Donald Trump is certainly not one to do that, and unfortunately I have to disagree with LZ. I think most people, when they were looking to why they should choose Donald Trump in this election, it's because they thought that we seemed weak on the world stage for the last 4 years and needed a major change on that front.
In terms of, national policy, national security. But, Kaivan, do you think the message that perhaps the president was trying to project was received by Russia, North Korea, China?
I don't think Putin's afraid of Donald Trump at all, and I think everything that's happened up to this moment shows that. I mean, it was Hillary Clinton, obviously, that said that a man that you can bait into nuclear war with a tweet is not fit for the Oval Office, and Donald Trump has demonstrated some of that behavior. I will say the timing is interesting. Obviously, polls show Trump really struggling, some of his lowest favorabilities in the history of his tenure, either term, and so he comes out with something like this, I agree with John, to look strong. Does it work? I think it's sort of a played out trick at this point and such a pattern for him that I don't know it wins anyone over.
All right, John, LZ, Elizabeth, Kaivan, don't go anywhere. In our last call here.